Welcome back to my YouTube channel, my loves. If this is your first time tuning into one of my videos, my name is Stef and I'm the Psychic Soul Alignment Coach. What that means is that I work with spiritual people and spiritual entrepreneurs to help them to do very deep levels of healing, also known as inner work, shadow work, inner child healing, to peel back all the many layers of limiting beliefs, fears, insecurities, and traumas that they may have so that they're able to then more powerfully align with who they really are on a soul level, on a higher self level. And as a result of this greater soul alignment or higher self alignment, they're then able to create success much more effortlessly in life, and they're able to live life more joyfully and feel more fulfilled. So that's how I help people. Here on my YouTube channel, I typically do videos on the subjects of mindset, manifestation, healing, spirituality, spiritual entrepreneurship, spiritual activism. I bring forward channel messages sometimes as per my spirit guides. I also sometimes do energy readings, like my April 2021 energy reading. So if you haven't yet seen that, you can go check out the cards section up here to go watch that afterwards. But I do a number of different things here on my YouTube channel as I'm asked to by my spirit guides or as I feel called to by my own inner guidance. And so that's what I do. So if these subjects interest you and you enjoyed today's video, definitely make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell notification button and change your settings to all so that you never miss out on a video from me on my channel, because I don't have a consistent upload schedule. I just show up when I have things to say. So that's how I work. Now, today's video is going to be all on spiritual ego, which is something that I have been feeling really called to speak on over the last year or so. And like I said, if this is your first time tuning into one of my videos are generally quite long because I bring forward a lot of things to say. So you always can use the settings option here on YouTube to increase the speed of this video so that you're able to watch it at the speed that's most convenient for you and so that it remains respectful of your time, okay? So let's get into today's video. And if you're a returning viewer and subscriber, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. I really do appreciate you and your time and just how you choose to support me via my channel. So thanks so much for allowing me to guide you on your journey. All right, so spiritual ego. I don't have any set notes on what to say today. I'm just gonna see what comes through because there's so many things that could be said. I could probably do quite a few videos on spiritual ego and the many different ways in which it can manifest and just a bunch of different things. But we're just going to see what comes through today. And if you enjoyed today's video, definitely let me know in the comments below what you thought of this, what your thoughts are, your opinions, your experiences. If you have any questions, because maybe that will inspire me for a part 2 to this video, okay? So, all right, if you watched my video that I did on how to choose the right spiritual teacher for you, I will link that up here in the card section for you to go check out as well. But in that video, more or less, I talked about how, spiritual teachers have their own ego, right? Because they're human beings and we're all flawed. And it doesn't matter how long we've been on the spiritual journey and how much we know about spiritual things or whatever, we all have ego, and spiritual people have spiritual ego. Like, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of spiritual people have spiritual ego. So what exactly is spiritual ego? Okay. And the level or the amount of spiritual ego that a person has will vary from person to person, but we all have it on some level. Okay. So what is spiritual ego? Spiritual ego, to me, and the best way that I could put it together in a definition, is when you have knowledge of spiritual teachings, spiritual concepts, and because you possess that knowledge and you apply it to your life, you think that you're superior in some kind of way to others that are also on that same spiritual path or that are not on that spiritual path. So just because you know things about spirituality and you've been on your own spiritual journey and you've been applying certain teachings and practices to your life, just because you do this, some people feel like they're better, they're wiser, they're more awake, they're superior in some kind of way to other people that are also on the spiritual path or that are not on the spiritual path. And usually this is more prevalent or noticeable when it comes to comparing oneself to someone who isn't on the spiritual path, who isn't woke, right? A lot of times you will see comments in, the spiritual community from spiritual people complaining about non-awakened people and saying that they're asleep, that they're in the matrix, that this and that, and from a tone and an energy of like condescension, right? And that's definitely been me on some level, at some different points in my journey. Especially, I think it's really common when you first get on the spiritual journey and you find out all about these things, and then it becomes very obvious to you and you see what's really happening in the world. And then when you see people who are just blatantly not showing up in the highest possible way, or not really being able to see things for themselves, like a lot of times we as spiritual people, when we become awakened, we can get frustrated with those people to be like, you need to wake up, you need to see what's going on, you need to change, and so on, right? And it's very easy for us to do that initially, I feel, because we don't know any better, because we're just trying to help people. A lot of times we're trying to, bring awareness to them to help them wake up as well and start aligning with things that are truly for their highest good, or helping them to align with more of who they truly are. So sometimes this does come from a place of good intentions, but we try to be very forceful about it. And then other times that doesn't necessarily just come from a place of good intentions. It just comes from a place of thinking that you're superior to these other people, and that you just look down upon them, right? So that is oftentimes when it's more blatant and obvious. I really saw a lot of spiritual ego type stuff happening last year during coronavirus, when that first started, and Black Lives Matter, right? I actually have a playlist here on my channel, and I will link it up here in the card section, but it's titled something like Spiritual Activism versus Spiritual Bypassing. And that's where I share my own experiences of my own spiritual ego and things that I had to go through for myself to work through that and to really recognize, my own ego. Because like I said, we all have it on some level. And a lot of times we don't notice our own stuff. And you can hear a car alarm going off in the background maybe of my video. This is an important message, okay? We all need to pay attention, because we all really do have spiritual ego on some level. And like I said, it doesn't matter how long you've been on the journey, you have it to some degree, and it's about you being aware of it, right? And continuously aligning yourself back with more of who you truly are, instead of your ego or your spiritual ego. And so the reason I say that is because, in those videos on spiritual activism and spiritual bypassing, I shared my own ego in regards to the coronavirus stuff and how I initially viewed it and all these other stuff, these things. And I had like a very strong stance, but it was actually coming from a place of not love. It wasn't coming from love. It was coming from judgment. It was coming from anger, and not even a righteous kind of anger, like an anger of feeling like I had my freedoms taken away, and just a bunch of things, because I'm Aquarius and freedom is so important to me. So I was feeling all kinds of things initially, but because I am a spiritual teacher who is meant to help raise consciousness and help guide people, my guides really helped me to humble myself real quick, to recognize my ego, and to come from a place of love, which I share in those videos. So I really recommend that you go through them and just follow my journey and see, and maybe something there will help inspire you or help you shift certain perspectives that you might have, and might help you align with more of who you truly are. But yeah, it was initially the coronavirus type stuff for me, how I was reacting it from this egoic place of being frustrated with people who weren't seeing certain things that I felt I was seeing, and just a bunch of different things, right? And then when it came to the Black Lives Matter stuff, I, saw not that coming from me, but from other people, where they were really being dismissive about the struggles that people of color have had in their experiences, and just the challenges that they've had from a lot of spiritual people. Like, a lot of spiritual people were saying very mean and hurtful things, which I speak on in that video that I did on how to choose the right spiritual teacher for you, and probably some other videos on the playlist for spiritual activism and bypassing. But it was interesting to be kind of like on the receiving end of that, and feeling like people were being unempathetic towards people like me, people of color who have had struggles because of their color, who have had to work a bit harder to a certain extent, because of the physical vessel that we use in this body, right? And my own experience of how I feel I've been marginalized as a person of color, because I grew up personally in a predominantly like white led place. No offense to white people, I love y'all, right? But I just noticed a lot of things growing up that made it hard for me to see myself in certain things, which, subliminally programs me in certain ways. But that's a story for another day. And maybe I'll get into it in my next video, I guess, because I feel called to speak out on more of this like racism stuff and the importance of activism at this time. But anyway, so it was interesting, you know, because a lot of people were acting from this egoic place and being very unempathetic or dismissive to the challenges of people of color and Black people. And I couldn't be mad because I had been such a person myself. And I knew that the only reason people were acting in this way and saying these very hurtful kinds of comments or taking this very, I don't know, stoic type of stance around this was because they just didn't know any better. They just lacked a certain level of awareness. It was their spiritual ego that was talking and not really them in who they really are on this greater spiritual level. So I had to have compassion and empathy for those people because I had been just like them. And if it hadn't been for my guides showing me how to really empathize with people and see beyond my own perspective and really connect with people in a greater way, I would have just stayed that same kind of way as well in regards to the COVID stuff for myself. And so this is what happens, is that we all have spiritual ego on some level, and it's a matter of continuously recognizing that and aligning with the truth of who we are. And I speak on that specifically, even just like recently, you know, in the last month with the video that I did on how to choose the right spiritual teacher for you. I shared, you know, an anecdote of how I was made aware of my own spiritual ego in regards to using the N-word in like music that I listen to and things like that, and me thinking nothing of it, me thinking like there's nothing wrong with this, like I grew up with this culture, you know, this is the music that speaks to me, and it's just, you know, words, I'm not meaning it in a harmful kind of way and this and that. But that was actually my spiritual ego that was talking, that was trying to justify my usage of that word and only seeing it from my perspective. And even though I could logically, intellectually understand the history behind that word and why it was so controversial for non-Black people to use it and all this other stuff, but me being the little, you know, smart Aquarius that I am, that's like, I will have an argument for you. You know, I went and did my research online and found, you know, that even Black people couldn't agree with who was supposed to use this word or not, you know, and Black people feeling like nobody should use this word anymore because of the history behind it. Some Black people not caring who uses it. It's okay for people to use it, you know, especially with music and stuff like that. Then some Black people feeling like, no, only Black people are allowed to use this. And so there was just like so many differences online. And I, with my ego, was like, I'm going to use this to justify. I'm going to use this to justify my stance, which I feel I am entitled to, I guess, if you want to call it that, or that I have the right to, you know, it's the same thing, but the right to use this word, because I don't mean any harm by it. I understand the history and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, Black people can't even agree either. So, you know, it's all good and this and that. And just like trying to find loopholes to justify myself. It was the craziest thing, right? This is sometimes what happens when you have a lot of knowledge or wisdom or whatever. It's you think that you're so smart and you will try to find ways to justify yourself. It's crazy. But then luckily, through talking to one of my friends who, you know, was a person that I felt could give me like sound advice and guidance and an opinion without judgment and this and that, I was able to see that from a completely different experience or perspective than I had before. And my friend really helped me to understand that, you know, my usage of that word could potentially hurt people. And maybe not everyone, but some people might get hurt because of what it means to them and, you know, how it relates to them in their family history and that kind of stuff. So I had to really sit with myself and understand, like, holy moly, like there are some people that do get hurt. And is it really worth it to me to keep using this word, even though I don't mean anything bad by it, even though, you know, I grew up in this kind of environment with like being surrounded by Black culture and Black people, and, you know, their usage of that word and it being normalized for me and this and that, like, is it really worth it though to me to keep using this word, even though it might hurt another, you know, even though unconsciously it might perpetuate hurt and pain, right? Because words are very powerful. They're truly powerful and they carry a certain vibration. And, you know, certain words, certain things, like it is all about the meaning that you give to them. And I understand that and I recognize that. But for me, at least in my journey, I had to really recognize, like, for me, do I want to keep using this word and putting that energy out into the world, knowing what it does subconsciously and energetically to some people in the world, and that it can cause them pain. And really recognizing, well, what do I stand for? I stand for love. This is what kind of leader I try to be to the best of my ability, and to help people come together and unify. And how can I really help people come together and, you know, empathize with one another and create this unity when I'm saying that certain people's feelings don't matter because I should have the right to use this word. Does that make sense? So I had to like really sit with myself for like 48 hours and just process all of this. And it was weirdly painful because a part of my ego died. When I was really able to recognize for myself that my ego, my spiritual ego, you know, was trying to justify my behavior and my actions, my words, and then recognizing that that wasn't in alignment with what my values really are and what I'm here to do, and how I'm here to represent God, like that hurt me in a way that I recognize that I have been acting out of integrity with what I'm here to really do and who I'm here to really be. And it was really painful. I felt a lot of sadness, a lot of remorse, a lot of pain in my heart for not showing up in the best possible way. And so I had to like grieve that whole process and stuff, because that's all I try to do in my work is I try to honor God. I try to do here on the planet what God put me to do. And, you know, as I understand that more and more on my journey and I align with that, I've really come to understand, like, I'm here to lead with love, and I'm here to help people lead with love in their lives, in their businesses, in the work that they do. And that wasn't me leading with love. And so I had to like process that and let it go. And then decide like that word's not in alignment for me, right? And so that's the thing, is that the reason I share that example with you again, you know, is just because it's so easy to dismiss your spiritual ego and think that you don't have it. But you do. You just haven't been made aware of it yet. And you will be made aware of it as you go on your journey and it's relevant to you. There is something that I mentioned in one of my videos on my healing workshop. I have a healing workshop here on YouTube. It's called Change Your Conditioning. I also have a mini healing program, so I will link them up here in the card section for you to go and watch. Or I'll drop it in the comments below here on YouTube for you to go sign up for that. But somewhere in one of those examples, in one of the videos that I did, I shared about how you have to really practice increasing your awareness to recognize your own limiting beliefs, fears, traumas, you know, egoic stuff or whatever. And it doesn't matter how long you've been on the journey, like, you're not going to be rid of your ego, you know, completely. Like, things are going to show up, but they're going to show up as you're ready to have them show up. And so that's the thing here, is that we all have spiritual ego to some degree. Nobody's exempt from spiritual ego. When you hear people say that they're having like an ego death and they're completely free from ego, or they don't have spiritual ego, those are people that often have the most ego because they're just not aware, right? And so we all have it on some level, but we're going to be made aware of our own spiritual ego as we live life and have interactions with other people. And we recognize where we're not showing up in a way that's truly for the highest good, in a way that's truly in alignment with who we truly are and what our values are. Like, we will recognize it then and only if we pay attention, if we raise our awareness to actually recognize that, right? And so how you can recognize it is like when you get triggered, when someone says something to you about how you're showing up, right? If it triggers you in some way, then that's an opportunity for you to look into that and to see why, right? So in my example, you know, with the usage of the N-word and stuff, like, I had a friend point that out to me, and it initially triggered me, as I shared in, you know, that video I mentioned on choosing the right spiritual teacher for you. It initially triggered me. It was something that was like bothering me, not like really, really strongly, but it still bothered me. And I don't know, I had trouble with it. And even though my friend tried to say it in maybe the nicest possible way that I was probably in the wrong, it still bothered me and affected me because of my initial like subconscious programming and stuff, because I'm a person of color. I've gone through a lot of stuff, and my friend is the person that is at the top of the food chain when it comes to, you know, power in the world. And that's what they represented for me. And so for them to say something to me was like, hold up, you have no right to say anything to me. Like, you've been at the top and you don't know what struggle is and you don't know this and that. And I was, you know, getting defensive. It was my ego trying to defend itself. And it was bothering me, you know, because I was like, how does this person of all people, you know, like, think that they have any right to say anything to me, right? Over here feeling justified, defensive. But it bothered me clearly, right? I was triggered. I wasn't like angry triggered, but I was triggered enough to be like offended. And it just kept bothering me. And then that's when I was like, okay, there's something here, but I'm not seeing it. Clearly, I'm not seeing what the issue is. So that's where I reached out to a friend who could help me see things differently, who didn't necessarily agree with me. And I didn't even know that person's true thoughts in the beginning, but, you know, I figured, like, if anyone's gonna be able to talk some sense into me, it's this person. And maybe they'll help me see a perspective that I'm not seeing. And they did. And they revealed to me that they didn't agree with my usage of the word, respectfully, and they explained why. And the way that they explained it just really helped me to recognize, like, oh, like, for me at least, this is how I feel. You're free to have your own opinions on the usage of the N-word. But for me, I was like, oh yeah, I am in the wrong. I am not showing up in the best possible way. And I'm out of integrity with what I stand for. And I got to shift that, right? And this is my opportunity to shift that. So how you are able to then notice your spiritual ego as you go on your journey is, you know, do you feel defensive? Do you feel the need to defend your point of view, your beliefs, your stance on something? And does it trigger you in any kind of way? Even if it's like mild triggering, right? It could be a very strong emotional reaction, but it also could be something mild where it's just like something that is just in the back of your head and it's bothering you and you don't understand why. So that's an opportunity maybe for you to reach out to someone else that you respect, that you feel safe with, that you trust, that you admire, and that you feel will be able to give you sound guidance, advice, a sound opinion, words of wisdom to maybe help you see things that you're unable to see. Because we all see things from our own unique perspective. We all see things through our unique filters, the sunglasses or the glasses that we wear to use to see life through. Like, we all see it from our unique point of view. And so we're all uniquely biased on some level, even if we try not to be. Like, me as an Aquarian, I generally am really good at seeing the higher perspectives. Like, that's how I was designed. I was designed to see more than just my own point of view, which is why I typically don't take a black or white kind of stance on things. Like, I see everything, and I try to be in the middle, but always leaning towards the light, because I can see all the good or the perspectives from both sides, but I try to be in the middle somewhere, as opposed to really being like a stern, like, yeah, this way, right? And so that's the thing, is that even though I'm naturally good at that, and I know that I'm naturally good at that, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not subconsciously maybe taking more of a like strong biased stance from time to time, and that I need to be willing to reach out to other people and to be humble enough or have enough humility to recognize that and to speak to someone that can help me in some kind of way see things that I don't see, right? And, you know, luckily I have good people in my life that can help me with that when I need it, right? So, you know, that's the thing, is that we all have spiritual ego. I want you to be very mindful of this. And it's really important for you to really just get clear on what it is that you stand for. Like, what do you stand for in terms of your values? Who do you really want to be in life? Like, what does it mean to you to be aligned with who you truly are on the spiritual level, right? What kind of behaviors do you express? Like, what do you truly believe? What are your values when you're coming from this higher place? And just getting clear on that, right? This is a really good exercise. I would suggest that you take a journal and do this, because you need to journal on these things to have clarity, so that as moving forward, you have certain life experiences and you have things that trigger your own spiritual ego. you're then able to recognize that more easily and continuously align yourself with more of who you truly are, just like how I have been, these last few years, especially in the last year, and that will allow for you to be more of this beautiful, divine, loving being that you truly are, or whatever it is that you feel is the highest expression of you on the spiritual level, right? So for me, I've really just felt really pulled to be more Jesus-like these last, few months or so, really feeling pulled to bring more love and compassion and empathy and understanding to the world, and really standing by that, even if I have to take a certain stand on things, but choosing to do it from that place of love, compassion, of empathy, of unity, understanding. And so I've really had to be very mindful of when I'm not being as empathetic as I could be, or as I truly am, when I'm not really coming from love and I'm coming from defensiveness or anger or whatever it is, right? And that's not to say that anger can't come from a place of love. That's a complex topic. But there's different types of anger, just to be clear real quick. There's anger coming from judgment, and there's anger coming from love, right? And you have to see which one you choose to align with, right? But anyway, back to the topic. I've had to really just observe myself more and to recognize I'm not being the empathetic being that I am. Because if you watched my last video that I did on what the purpose of the spiritual path is, I'll link it up here in the cards for you to check out. I'll probably put the links to my workshop, my healing workshop, and my healing program in the comments of this video, actually, instead of linking the card up here. But basically, what I've really come to understand is that the purpose of the spiritual path for me at this time, how I understand it, is that we're here to be who we truly are, and at the core of who we truly are, we're unconditional loving beings. And so I have to really recognize inside of myself again and again when I'm not being that unconditionally loving being that I have the potential to be, right? And that doesn't mean that I excuse bad behavior, poor behavior, disrespectful behavior, toxic behavior, no. But this is a very complex topic. I could talk on this for like 10 hours probably or something, right? But it just means that I need to recognize inside of myself when I'm acting from my ego and not who I truly am, right? So I can show up lovingly and empathetically and compassionately and set boundaries from this place and remove people from my life from this place and speak my truth from this place, right? Or I could do it from my ego and speak my truth, not from a place of love, not from a place of compassion, not from a place of understanding, not from a place of empathy. I could set boundaries that doesn't come from, a place of empathy, compassion, understanding, love. I can remove people from my life, that doesn't come from these places. It comes from ego. So you have to constantly be mindful of yourself and whether you are coming from a place of who you truly are or your ego, your spiritual ego, and constantly realigning to be just aligned with who you really are on this deeper spiritual level, right? So that is what I wanted to say for today's video. I really hope that this has helped you. I thought I was going to talk about a million more things as it relates to spiritual ego, but I guess not. I guess not. There's something I really do feel called to say real quick just to wrap this up. I think it was last week or the week before, I have no idea, but there was a situation with a personal development leader whose name I don't want to give away because I don't see the point of that, but there was this spiritual leader who didn't show up in the best possible way, and they received a lot of negative attention because of certain things that they said, how they expressed themselves, and just how they showed up. And I noticed that a lot of people in my world who are on the spiritual path and are spiritual guides of some kind for themselves were taking a very judgmental and hard stance towards this person. And it was coming from a place of hurt. It was coming from a place of anger. And I totally understood it. I understood how they were feeling. At the same time, though, there was also this hint of superiority that was coming from these people. How I saw it, based on what I was reading and the energy I felt behind it. That these people were like, they should know better. You know, this person who made this very big mistake, you know, they were like, they should know better, and, you know, they shouldn't make people feel this way, and da-da-da-da-da, and this and that. And there was just like so much harsh judgment and criticism behind that. And I understand that to a certain extent, because when we're hurt, we unconsciously want to hurt other people. We want to hurt people with our words. We want to make them feel the pain that they made us feel or whatever. And I feel like a lot of these people were really hurt, which is why they expressed themselves the way that they did. Because more than likely they had someone in their own lives make them feel similarly or something. And so what they experienced in their past was being triggered by this person, this leader's poor behavior. And I get that. At the same time, though, you know, with what I've been sharing on Instagram, at least if you follow me on Instagram, I'll put my social media handles in the comments of this video. It'll be pinned. But recently I have been talking on leadership and how in order to create a world where there's more love and mutual respect and empathy, compassion, understanding, unity, all that jazz, we need to be able to really speak to each other with love. And we need to be able to really bring to one another's awareness of where we're not showing up in the highest possible way, but we can do that with love. We don't have to do that with this harsh criticism and judgment and all this other stuff. Like, we don't have to do it from that place. I know people will still act from that place because they're hurt, right? And they're speaking from their hurt, and I get that to a certain extent. But for those of you at least watching this video who do have more awareness around this now, maybe because of what I'm sharing, like, you can point a person's mistakes out or their shortcomings, but you can do it with love. So when it comes to pointing out people's mistakes or shortcomings, it's one thing to tell someone like, you're a poor leader, stop lying to people, you are, you know, this and that, and da-da-da-da, and just like straight up like attacking them with your words and your judgments and your criticisms. And it's another thing to say it from a place of love and compassion and understanding and saying like, hey, I'm really disappointed in your recent actions because, you know, you have shared so many good things in the world and I wasn't expecting this from you. And it hurts my heart to see that you didn't really take into consideration your audience more with when you said this or when you did these things or whatever it is. And I really hope that you reflect on your behaviors, your words, and your actions to really understand the pain that you caused with your words and how insensitive that was, because I know that you can do better, and I know that deep down inside you didn't really mean this. And I really hope that you take this time to self-reflect on just how hurtful your words were so that you can do better next time. Something like that, you know? Like, the two approaches are totally different. But one is coming from a place of ego and one is coming from a place of love. And so, you know, that's just what I wanted to point out, is for those of you watching this video to take that into consideration. You would never want someone to criticize you harshly and bash you with their words and, you know, just massacre you with their observations of you. You would want someone to be considerate, respectful, caring, or empathetic, you know, to the fact that you're a normal human being who is flawed, who makes mistakes, and to just point it out in a nice way, right? And I know that not everyone's going to agree with this. I'm sure sometime in the future there will be people trolling me in the future in the comments section, saying all kinds of mean things, you know, about people being too sensitive and da-da-da-da. And I get that. I understand that. But at the same time, it's like we're shifting into a version of reality, a dimension where there is more love in the world and where we are these more loving beings. And so as more loving beings, we're naturally going to be more sensitive because we're going to become more empathetic to one another's feelings. So when we spew words that hold a lot of anger and frustration and lack of empathy and understanding and all this other stuff to other people, like, that's going to naturally affect them and their well-being on many different levels. And that then in turn affects the collective consciousness and hurts. You know, if you're hurting one person, in a way, like you're hurting everyone on some level, because we're all interconnected. So be very mindful of your interactions with other people, because you're not just interacting with one individual, you're interacting with the collective. And if you want the collective to ascend and the collective to come back to greater love, you have to do your best to show up in a place from love and compassion, understanding, empathy, all this other stuff in your interactions, in your day-to-day with people, to promote more of that, to start creating that as more of the standard, the norm. Because, yeah, you know, when we are empathetic to one another, we're not going to want to hurt each other. We're going to want to come from this place of love, and the world will gradually become better because we're coming from this more aligned place in terms of, you know, being aligned with who we really are on the spiritual level, right? The world will become a better place as more and more of us show up as more of who we truly are, right? There will be less violence and less greed and less, you know, people taking advantage of one another, etc., because of it, because we're coming from this higher place, right? So that is what I wanted to share today. And don't feel bad if you show up from a place of ego or spiritual ego. You're a normal human being, you're flawed. Like I said, you're only going to be made aware of your own spiritual ego as it's time and relevant for you to be made aware of that. And you just got to process that and continue to realign. And as you do that, you're going to just show up as, you know, better and better versions of yourself. And that's what it's really all about. Or higher and higher versions of yourself, if you want to say it that way. So that's basically what I wanted to share today. I really hope that this has helped you. If you enjoyed today's video, please let me know by giving this video a thumbs up, a like wherever you're watching from. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video, what perspectives you have on this, experiences, questions, maybe opinions. You know, I'm always welcome to hearing your opinions, and you're welcome to share it in whatever way you feel called to. It's up to you. And yeah, if you want to hear more of what I have to share, then definitely make sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet already. Hit that bell notification button and change your settings to all so that you never miss out on one of my videos as I upload them. And if you would like to really do deep levels of healing work required to help you to work through your spiritual ego, then I would really love to have you join me in my Remembering Who You Are program. I will try to see if I can put the playlist up here to testimonials I have, but Remembering Who You Are is a very powerful, deep healing 12-week program where I really help you to work through a lot of your own stuff from this life, as well as karmic things and things that really just keep you at a lower state than who you really are. Things that really keep you attached to your past stories and your pain and your judgments, and really just supporting you and aligning yourself with more of who you truly are, more of this unconditional love, this empathy, this personal power, this greater level of self-worth. Like, that is what I help you with in Remembering Who You Are. And honestly, like, what has really allowed for me to release a lot of my own spiritual ego all these years has been just doing the deep work that I teach in Remembering Who You Are again and again and again. Like, that's stuff that I put into practice every single day of my life the last few years. And it's what's really helped me to become more of this unconditionally loving and empathetic and kind and caring being and teacher and coach and healer and psychic, you know, is because I constantly work through things that help me release my own egoic stuff to show up in the highest possible way. And that's what I'm about. That's why I do the work, is because I know I become better for it, for myself and for so many others, as I do this deeper inner work, right? And so it's really just changed my life, and it really helps me to stay showing up from a place of integrity and really just give my best to people. So if that is something that really speaks to you, if you would like to be supported with your own healing journey and process, then I would really love to have you come and join me, because I'm going to be launching my program this month. You can reach out to me via my social media handles, which are in the comments of this video, and message me more to ask about that. And that's basically it. All right, so thank you so much for your time today. I really hope that this video was helpful to you, and I will see you in another video. Take care.